Welcome to Chapter 4 of the 18th Emergency. Mouse entered the apartment and went directly into the hall and sank down onto his bed. In the living room, his mother was still going through her cosmetic orders. "Did you get Mr. Casino home all right?" "Yes." He waited, but she did not say anything else. He turned over on his bed and looked at the wall. His heart was still beating so loudly he could hear it. It seemed to him that he had passed through the most dangerous moment of his life. He wanted to call out, "I was almost killed in case you were interested," but he did not. He knew the strange way that his voice sounded when he was frightened, and he knew his mother would not be concerned, but only a little tired and a bit disgusted. "Oh, don't start on that again," she would say. She never seemed to take danger seriously. He thought of taking out a pencil and writing on the wall, "Alive and well by miracle," and then drawing an arrow to his collapsed body. But he didn't have the strength to look for a pencil, so he lay without moving. He recalled the time he had had his tonsils out, how lightly his mother had treated that. She'd said, "Well, look, it's just your tonsils, those little things at the back of your throat. Don't make a big fuss out of it." But it had been a big deal to him. He could still remember the feeling of being in the hospital, of lying in a strange bed. The only reason he'd been able to survive that night at all was because, at the last minute, his father had gone down to the car and brought up his flashlight. It was a big, heavy metal flashlight that his father kept in the car in case of an emergency on the road. His father had brought the flashlight out from under his jacket and quickly poked it under the covers. "There, now you'll be all right." The flashlight had made Mouse feel a little bit better. The cold metal against his leg had calmed him, and when all the other children had gone to sleep, he had lain there awake, and he had turned on the flashlight and shone it on the faces of the other children. He could remember right now the way their faces had looked in the pale circle of light. He thought that if he saw one of those children on the street right now today, he would recognise him, and he would go up and say, "Hey, weren't you in the hospital one time?" Marv Hammerman came back into his mind, and Mouse shifted onto his other side. He tried to think of anything else. Emergency 9. Approach of mad elephants. When a herd of mad elephants is stampeding in your direction, quickly take to the tallest tree and wait. According to Ezzy, there was nothing as pleasant as lying coolly in the limb of a huge tree while a herd of male elephants passed beneath you like a noisy, dusty river. "Do you have any homework?" his mum called from the living room. "No." "Well, there's a horror movie on channel 53. "Might be in a minute," he had said. He unzipped his jacket and stared up at the ceiling. Emergency 10. If attacked by a vampire, make the sign of a cross. Emergency 11. If attacked by a werewolf, draw a 6-pointed star and get inside it. The phone rang, and his mother answered it. She came into the hall where he was lying on the daybed. There'd been a lot of talk at one time of moving into a larger apartment where he could have had a bedroom of his own. But Mouse thought he would feel funny in a bedroom now. The hall with the daybed and the bookcase at the end for him was just fine. "Your dad wants to talk to you." Mouse got up quickly because his father's understanding about the flashlight was still in his mind. Mouse's father had been driving a truck for the last 2 years, and Mouse hardly ever got to see him. He ran to the phone. "Hello?" He looked down at the table. On the cover of the telephone book he had written, "All the numbers in here are to be dialed on this." And then he'd drawn an arrow to the telephone. "Hello?" he said again louder. "Benji?" "Yeah, this is me." "Well, how are you, son?" "Fine." He paused and added with a loud laugh. "For now, anyway." It was his scared voice, but his father did not recognise it over the telephone. Mouse waited for his father to say sympathetically, "Oh, is there something wrong with you?" Suddenly, he wanted this more than anything. He began to twist his finger into the telephone cord. He waited for his father to beg, "Tell me, Benji." He wanted his father to say, "Whatever the trouble is, I want to know. I demand to know. Tell me." "Oh, all right," he would then answer, as casually as possible. 3 boys are going to kill me. Marv Hammerman, Tony Leone, and a boy in a black sweatshirt." His father would say, "I'm in Kentucky, and boy, is it raining. How is it there?" Well, the weather's alright. Fine, listen, I was just thinking maybe we might do something next weekend. It looks like I'm going to be off in town after all. Mouse hesitated, holding the phone against his cheek. His mother was not looking at her orders now, but was sitting up straight listening to his conversation. Speak up, Benji, talk to your father, this is long distance. I know, Mum. Well, how about it, Benji? You want to do something next weekend? Sure. That'd be fine. Then he laughed again. If I'm still able to do something. Don't start on that, Benji, his mother said in a low voice. How does a basketball game sound? His father had said. What? The basketball game? Fine. Sounds fine. Sound excited, his mother suggested from the sofa. He's making a special effort for this. Yeah, sounds very fine. He gave up on his father. One by one, the people who could help him were falling away, leaving him to face his trouble alone. It was like one of those Western movies. Now, let me speak to your mum for a minute, his father was saying. Sure. He held out the phone. He wants to speak to you. His mother came over very quickly, and Mouse went back and lay on the daybed. He heard his mother saying in a low voice, No, there's nothing wrong with him. No, nothing. He's just got the idea that some boys are after him. That's all. It's nothing. He waited, thinking he might be called back to the telephone. Then he heard his mother say, No, we can have supper here. You eat out too much. No. Besides, I've got a new recipe I want to try. A lady served it to me at one of my parties. There was silence. Then she laughed. Napoleon's hot dogs. Mouse turned over. The covers were twisting beneath him like a rope. He looked at the wall and he remembered another dangerous thing that had happened to him. A second crisis survived, like the tonsils. In September, he had got the idea that he would climb up the cliff behind the new shopping centre at Hunter's Square. There was a large rock on top with a button-like rock at the centre. A mouse had wanted to climb up this, write press for service and draw an arrow to the button. Now the idea, once it entered his mind, would not leave. And finally, he had persuaded Ezzy to go over to the shopping centre with him. Ezzy had not been enthusiastic. As Mouse was purchasing a can of spray paints at the dime store, Ezzy had stood there. What do you need this for, Mouse? That's 49 good cents you're wasting. Ezzy never had any money. His father pretended to be deaf when the word allowance was mentioned. It's not a waste. We could buy pretzels with that money. You get 3 pretzels for 39 cents, which would leave a dime for... Ez, I'm going to do it. There was a deep sigh from Ezzy at that persistence. He followed Mouse out of the store and spoke only when they were facing the solid wall of the cliff. Where is it you're going to write this, Mouse? He already knew because Mouse had told him a dozen times. There. They looked up together. Mouse and Ezzy were squinting into the sun, but Ezzy's face still had a flat look. Why can't you just write your name over there under the peace sign like any normal person? That's what I do. Nope. Sometimes you're stupid, Mouse. Ezzy sat down on the ground. Well, go on, get it over with. Mouse hated Ezzy to be disgusted with him. He was the only good friend Mouse had ever had. He looked at Ezzy, who was staring at his feet. Alright, Ezzy, I'm going to start now if you want to watch. I've seen disasters before, Ezzy said in a bored voice. Here I go. Anyway, climbing up the cliff was easy at first. A lot of boys had climbed and left footholds, but Mouse went slowly anyway. The can of spray paint was tucked in his belt, pressing against his stomach. The higher he climbed, the harder it got. By the time he reached the halfway mark, he was winded, and his arms and legs had started to ache. Every minute began to seem like 10. I'm still going, he called to Ezzy, but Ezzy did not answer. Mouse wanted to look down, but he had to stop doing that a long time ago because he felt dizzy. I'm still going, Ez! He had to find little ways to climb now because there did not seem to be any footholds at all. He used roots and crevices and toeholds, and finally he was there. Gasping from exertion and nervousness, he panted out, I made it, Ez! I made it! Ezzy did not answer. Holding onto a root with one hand, Mouse took out the spray can, he shook it and began to write. How does that look, Ez? Can you read it? He made an R and an E. He leaned out to the side and continued with the two S's. And suddenly his foot slipped. It was a terrible, sickening realisation. 1 minute he was painting an S, the next he was sat hanging by a root with one knee balanced on a sharp rock. His whole life, it seemed, depended on whether or not this root was going to hold. Hey, watch it! As he called. Mouse couldn't speak. His leg was digging against a cliff, running as if it was a race by itself. For a moment, Mouse thought it was all over. His leg started to go slower and slower. The root began to pull out of the earth. And then, miraculously, his other hand found a little ledge and his foot found a rock. The foot held, his other foot found a toehold. Hey, don't do that, will you? It makes me nervous. Mouse inched his way back to the ledge. You? Yeah, me. Mouse clung for a moment. He was so weak he thought he might slip down the cliff like a blob of grease. You dropped your spray can, did you know? No. It's busted. Oh. The old nozzle's gone, as he shook the can. It's full of paint, but the nozzle's gone. I told you we should have got pretzels. Well, I might have to come down now. Lying on his bed now, Mouse thought that that particular emergency, falling off a cliff, had been avoided by one of the simple survival tricks. Brushes with nature were very simple. Emergency 12. When you're falling off a cliff, grab a root with one hand, a ledge with another, put your foot in a small rock, and then coolly climb down. His mother came to the doorway and said, What are you and your dad doing this weekend? We're going to a basketball game. Oh, that'll be nice, won't it? Yeah. Your father's making a special effort to get home. I wish it could be one more time, Mouse said. Well, I do too. She stood there for a minute looking at him. Your father doesn't like this either. It's no fun for him to be driving all the time. Anyway, it won't be forever. She waited a minute and then said, Well, better put on your pyjamas and get into bed. He got up quickly as if he'd just been laying there waiting for someone to tell him what to do. He went to the bathroom, took his pyjamas from a hook behind the door, and got ready for bed. He lay there for a while, and in the living room, his mother had put out the lights and was watching television. He could see the light flickering as the picture changed, and he tried to think of another emergency he could handle. Emergency 13, Octopus attack. This was one emergency measure everyone agreed upon. John Wayne, Tarzan, Jungle Jim, everybody. It worked in every South Sea movie Mouse had ever seen. When attacked by an octopus, you stab the octopus in the eye with a knife that you've tucked in the waistband of your bathing suit. He lay there without moving. In the living room, his mother switched channels. Emergency 14, parachute jump. If you are called upon to make an unexpected parachute jump from a plane, you must relax your body completely. As he had learned this from a talk show on television, the natural thing, as he had learned, is for the parachute jumper to start making climbing movements with his arms and legs, trying unconsciously to get back to the safety of the plane. As he said, everybody does this, but what he would do would be to hold his body in his relaxed position, count to 10, and pull the ripcord. While Mouse was thinking of emergency 15, he fell asleep. The end. Chapter 5 will be released tomorrow. Thank you very much.